Hi, I'm Eddie Obeng, and this is how I try to create for you an experience where you learn how to do stuff differently better. The one I've got today for you is called an OrganoWeb. You'll be aware of organograms and hierarchy diagrams, and we've used those forever. They worked well. They came out of the military. They were perfect for the old world where the pace of change was slower than our ability to learn, and experience counted for much more than innovation. But the world's moved and we're still organized in those. So let's go and have a look and see what we can find about OrganoWeb. So let's jump on Cube and let's see how you might organize differently. So welcome to Cube, where the sun is always shining. This is one of the areas we sit in. And as you can see, we're enjoying the bean bags, lovely cubicle for business processes. The window over here we can look out of. So let's jump up and have a look and see what we can find. I'm going to go and see whether there's a slideshow which helps us. So I've got a little quiz for you, and the quiz is an odd one out quiz, okay? And it works like this. So which one is the odd one out? Powering a Formula One car using a steam engine, fueling a Boeing 787 using a water wheel, running a computer notebook on transistors, arming a laser-guided smart bomb with gunpowder, driving the screen of your iPhone using valves, or organizing a new world global business using a 100-year-old hierarchical structure. Which of those is the odd one out? I'll give you some time to see whether you can spot the odd one out. Can you spot the odd one out? Well, it's obviously the last one. Why is that? Because it's the only one which we're dumb enough to continue doing, even though it makes no sense. So let's understand what's going on, okay? Jump on here and I'll do some scribbling for you so you can see. So we all know that the world has shifted. We feel it, we can see it in every single case, that the pace of change has quite happily accelerated. There's the pace of change, and at the same time, our ability to learn has been quite flat. So we all know that. And we know that going back this way 100 years, the model which came out of basically the military was on understanding what was going on and then using that data down through the organization. So if you can learn fast and the world is changing, then if you're smart, you get the person with the most experience to tell the others what to do, and then they tell the others what to do. And so everybody's competent because everyone's telling everyone else, and you get this lovely hierarchy thing where the information and knowledge flows from the top down to the bottom. And that makes absolute sense here. But we're not in that world anymore. We're now in this world where the pace of change can outpace the pace of of learning. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you have to approach it completely differently. And the way you approach it, is to have a different think about what you're trying to do. Here, it was about control, pushing the data down. But in this world over here, you're more interested in making sure things are connected, that there's a flow of processes from A to B, that projects go from A to B, that information flows to the right people, and so on and so forth. So all of a sudden, you're asking a different question. So let's take the hierarchy, which you know. Okay, so let's take your hierarchy, which you're quite happy drawing, okay? And let's lay it flat on a piece of paper. Okay, so the piece of paper is now flat on the desk. So here's the hierarchy as we used to have it. The hierarchy is really about accountability and responsibility. So who gets to drive what? Accountability and responsibility. But what we're interested in is we have a customer over here. For the customer to get what they have of value, they have to connect with one of our people over here. So you have a customer over here, and the customer obviously is king, so I'm going to give him a little halo, and I'm going to make him yellow because he's the halo yellow, because he's the king, okay? But that customer is being supplied by one of our team in the organization, who is also connected to another member of our team who is providing the technical information. Then there's somebody who's invoicing them, and then there's somebody, and they are all connected to our suppliers out here, who are providing innovation, and they're in a different organization altogether. So what you're actually doing in real life is you're taking people out of the hierarchy and actually connecting them up for value. And that's what's actually going on. And that's why you end up with all these meetings. Because if this worked, if the old hierarchy diagram worked, you wouldn't need hundreds of cross-functional meetings. You wouldn't need all the project activity. It's because this model doesn't work. But all our salaries, all our reporting, all our KPIs are based on something which is now completely obsolete, because we're working in 3 dimensions with connections between people which are ethereal and come and move. So once you understand that, you realize you have to split accountability from responsibility. Responsibility is who has the resources to respond, and accountability is who are we counting to get this done. So we move from the start, cradle to the grave, from what we create, what we have as inputs, right the way out to outcomes. So once you get that, you then start to change how you work. And I invented the OrganoWeb for that. There's a really classic business case of me rebuilding one of the world's biggest pharma companies, Novartis, using the OrganoWeb. You can find it on the internet somewhere. So what's an OrganoWeb? Instead of looking at accountability and responsibility, we look at operating principles. The first is interdependence. I can't win unless you win. You can't win unless I win. That's what makes the teams. In other words, we depend on each other. Separate accountability from responsibility is really important, because you might be doing stuff and none of the stuff you do is for your boss. You're accountable to someone else. So we have to think about that part as well. Make sure that things are done in a federal way. The best person to do it does it, not the person who has the job description. No, the virtuality. The effect is what's important, not the form. So we want the outcome. We don't care how it's delivered. And control must never outweigh leadership. So leadership can be at any point in the organization, not just at the top. And then we have things like roles, not jobs, deliverables, not resources. I've tried to capture those up here, the upside down. And then this is the operating mechanism. The reason these are upside down is because the idea is there isn't a top to it. What you have is you have different activities. So you have at the center of the whole thing, money-making process teams. They make money the same over and over. It's connecting people who do the bits which continue. Money-making project teams make things which make a one-off of value to someone else. Money-making solutions teams solve issues for clients, etc. They are all connected and supported by core capabilities. What do we do ourselves, which make it work? Our suppliers. There might be skills we don't have, which our suppliers bring. We have to have coordination and leadership to pull it all together for each one of these things. And then we've got the customers. And people are making sure the customers, clients, and community are getting the value. And internally, we'll have professional services. People will count up the money, make sure that our human resources are good, et cetera, who make sure that the whole thing comes together. And that's an OrganoWeb. It's not about reporting lines and control lines. It's about working together, collaborating, and innovating together. And there are a number of pets which you then pick up if you want to work on that. One is actually just making sure that you pick up those 5 things I was talking about with the operating principles. What are we going to do to drive those? And then there are also, what are the key roles and responsibilities? Because you need to know who is in charge of each of these virtual teams, who's driving, who's leading, and so on. And clarity for them around what their role is. So that's an OrganoWeb. There's a book called Never Reorganize Again, which you can have a look at. There's also a quick guide. There are videos. There's a massive global case study. So you no longer have to be fighting your hierarchy all the time. You can now use the OrganoWeb to get people to naturally work the way in which they should naturally work, make the actual way of working the natural way of working. I've been Eddie Obeng. Make sure you subscribe. There's more good stuff coming for you. Thanks. Bye.